Good morning. Morning to me. Afternoon or evening to you. Today we're going to jump back into factoring after you took our quiz today. And our lesson is on a new kind of formula, I guess you want to say, or model, ax squared plus bx plus c. You're going to see what that's going to help you know how to do. But let's just take a step back, review a little bit. When we factor something that's a trinomial, like x squared minus 7x minus 18, we look at this last term here, that constant, and we say, what are the factors of 18? Well, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. Alright? So which combinations of these could make a negative 18 when multiplied, but could make a negative 7 when added together? Well, how about a negative 9 and a positive 2, right? Negative 9 and positive 2 would make a negative 18 when multiplied, and added together would make a negative 17. So this would be x minus 9 and x plus 2. Okay? Alright. But what about when we have something like this? We have 2x squared. I'm going to zoom in for you. 2x squared plus 13x minus 24. Well, right here we have something new. We have the coefficient in the beginning. And you can't GCF that out because there's nothing that 2 and 13 and 24 have in common. 13 is a prime number. You can't do x like this. You can't do that pattern because of this coefficient here. So there's some things that we're going to do together today. We're going to look at these steps here. If you have a coefficient here, the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to hide the first coefficient by removing it and multiplying it to the last. Okay? So you take this coefficient out here, that's in front of the x squared term, and you're going to multiply it at the end. You're going to just move it to the end, okay? We're going to move it to the end. We're going to go to the end of the bus, from the front of the bus to the end of the bus. And we're going to multiply it by the last constant. So now we have just x squared, because we took that 2 out, plus 13x minus 48, because 24 times 2 is 48. And now we can go to step 2, which is factors. So we're going to look at our 48, and we're going to say factors of 48. 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12. Okay, so let's see if we can make any of these groups here equal 13. Okay, so, right here, look, right there we have we could do a negative 3 and a positive 16 would make a 13, and when multiplied together they would make a negative 48. So we could say x plus 16 and x minus 3. Okay? So number 3 says to slide the original, but we can't forget about this coefficient here that we had. I mean, we're not done. We have to do this next step here. We're going to slide the original coefficient back by dividing it into both constants. I know that's weird, okay, but we can do it. So what we're going to do there is we're going to take that 2 and we're going to divide it back into both constants that we have now. So what we have here is we have x plus 16, right? And we had an x minus 3. So we have to take that 2, and these are now our constants, these numbers, the 16 and the 3, and we're going to divide it, that 2, it goes back into, we have to divide it back into both the constants, and then simplify. So when we simplify, switch colors here, we're left with x plus 16 divided by 2 is 8. And then we can't simplify. We don't want to put it in a decimal form. We're just going to leave it into 3 over 2. Okay? We do have one more step, and that's this. Multiply your remaining denominator to the x. Multiply your remaining denominator to the x. So we have if we do have a remaining denominator, which is right here, this 2, we're going to multiply that 2 to the x. Not this one. We don't have to do anything to this one. This one's good. It doesn't have a denominator. But this one does. So again, we're going to just move this down here. X plus 8. And then we are going to multiply that to the x. So when you multiply your denominator to the x, excuse me, not to the x. You're going to multiply, you're going to pull it out and multiply it here. You're going to multiply it on the coefficient. So you end up with 2x minus 3 because this 2 and this 2 would cancel. Okay? So what you end up doing is you actually just move it in front of the coefficient. In front of the x again. So it becomes, we just move it from here to here. Okay, so now it's no longer there. So we could check our answer with FOIL. So x plus 8, 2x minus 3. So let's check that with FOIL. Okay. First and first would be 2x times x would be 2x squared. That's your first. Outer is minus plus a negative or minus 3x. Inner is plus 16x. And last is minus 24. So we can combine our common terms here, and we end up with, we're going to simplify that over to 2x squared. These like terms combine, and they become 13 plus 13x minus 24. And if you look here, that's exactly what we started with at the top. Okay, so let's try it one time here on our own. Follow those same rules. So we have 5x squared plus 7x minus 6. So our first step, if you look at the top of your paper, it says to hide the coefficient by removing it and multiplying it by the last. So that's what we're going to do. X squared plus 7x minus, and we're going to say 6 times 5. We're going to pull that coefficient from the beginning to the back of the bus. And this becomes a 30. So, now we have x squared plus 7x minus 30. We're going to factor this 30. 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Okay? So any of these pairs here, do they combine to make 7? Possibly that one, right? So let's write that down. X plus 10 and x minus 3. Okay, that's what it would be to factor it. So remember, after you factor it, if you look at step 3, we're going to slide that original coefficient back by dividing it into the constants. So that was our 5. We're going to say 3 over 5 and 10 over 5. Remember? So I'm going to put this back up here so we can see our steps. Okay. And now we divide. Now we're going to simplify. X plus 2, 10 divided by 5 is 2, and x minus 3 divided by 5. So we're going to leave x plus 2 alone, it doesn't have a denominator, but this, we're going to have to move him in front of the x. So we get x plus 2 and 5x minus 3. And if we FOILed that out, we would see that that would be the answer. This is how you get the answer. And we only do all these steps, guys, if there is a number in front of the x squared term, like this 5 here, or the 2 up there. All right? Okay, that's it for tonight. We'll work more on this tomorrow in class. Have a great night.